Welcome back to my quest to build my ultimate van here. And for anybody who doesn't know, this thing is getting a new frame, moving the rear axle back. We're swapping out to 64-inch leaf springs. We're going to put a new rear axle underneath it. We're going to put a solid axle underneath the front of it. We're going to clearance it to run 35s. We are adding storage beneath the floor. We are tearing out the interior. We're re-welding the floor. We're going pretty intense on this thing. So, what we're going to start with today, we're going to remove the rear AC. We're going to remove some of this wiring. We might leave the compressor for now. I'm going to pull the front interior out, get that panel off, and there we go. And here we got the front seats out. We got the carpet, well, the floor mats, the carpet, and the air duct underneath it, all torn out. That's my airbag controller. So we got that panel out of the way. We got the rear air conditioning out of the way. I was a little surprised. So I already had the lines off, but there's two bolts that run through these holes. They didn't really feel like they did anything. I didn't actually have to pull them out, so that's weird. So that's open now. Pulled my air compressor out that was sitting right here, because I think that's going to end up over there in the end. Because I think my diesel heater is going to live down there. I'll clean it up. So now that the interior is pretty bare, now I'm starting to work on the underside, and I'll show you how that's going. So now that we're underneath the van here, we can see we're missing some pretty good structure here. So I started cutting out the frame, which is, it's just part of the unibody on these things, and the parts of the cross member that connect to them. So now these cross members are rusted. Oops. There's nothing left on the inside of these, so these are all coming out eventually. But for now, I'm just replacing this line. I'm not touching the floor yet. And then once that structure's back in, then I can start messing with the other stuff. So what I've done so far, some sawzall and some cutoff work, and I basically cut out the bottom side of that U. It's just a U shape. And now I'm going back and I'm removing these little bits of angle that are left. It's a giant pain in the neck because it's all spot welded on. So I got a short section here done. This floor is going to have to be repaired right there anyways. And also, so this is going to have to go. This whole area has to get out of here to make room for my new rear spring hangers. So that'll come later. I'm just going to focus on working my way forward for now. I am going to rebuild these. I'm not going to keep these because they're shifting, and I'm just going to build my own ones. So at first I was grinding these off, but then I remember that like tools exist for spot welds. So that's what I'm using now, the little spot weld cutters. So I am changing up a little bit how I'm taking these rails out. I was working underneath before. So, I can see all these spot welds from the top. They're very hard to see from the bottom with all the rust. And before, I didn't think I was going to have any welds over here, but now I changed my mind, and I'm gonna reuse the original spot weld locations. So it actually just makes sense to just use the spot weld tool, the little cutter, punch them all out from the top where I can see it, where I can work on it easy. And then when I go to weld it back in, I'll just have to put a spot weld in all of those, going all the way down. So yeah, making a lot faster progress up here. Some of these sets of holes will run all the way down to about here. And this is where I'll stop replacing the frame for now, and I'll do the front section later. So yeah, just keep working our way back. Can show you how much progress I've made now. I got this whole rear area cut out. For everybody that doesn't know, so these vans originally were shorties. Or were could be optioned to shorties back in the first gens, back in the 80s and early 90s, I think, was when they were still here. So the stampings, actually, of the floor, this is where the original van ended. And then the extended versions, which they were all extendeds after a certain year, I forget which, is what added this section on here. So you can see how it's the exact same shape, it's just shifted back. So they didn't change the floor at all, they just added on. The sidewalls are different, but so which kind of ends up with you end up with this real goofy structure here. So this, it's just this wide, and then it kind of comes out real wide there. You had two bumper brackets and braces. So this area took a ton of time to cut out, and you can see I'm not quite done yet. I got to clean up here yet and take out this bracket yet, and then clean up on the backside here. But and then as we go up, See, I took out the front hanger mounts. Oops, that's sharp. And I will take these off another night. And then I got a little bit more of this tubular section to take out. But now that I'm taking out the spot welds from the top, you can see all the holes in the floor. All the rust. But now that I'm taking the spot welds out from the top, it makes it a lot easier. And having a section gone makes the next section really much easier to get at. So I'm happy with this progress. That's going well. So now what we've got here is the tube steel that is going to be the new frame rails. I'm not going to do bent steel anymore. It's going to be a full tube, and it's 3x5 3/16 wall. And I'm measuring how long a piece I've got because I didn't buy this new. Just shy of 183. Because this is just for the back section, so I'm going to cut this exactly in half, and that's how far I will do in the back section. So if we take a peek underneath here, we can see that I have got a rail mocked up in place. So since this is a little taller than factory rail, it does stick down more, because you can barely see the other one on there. So then that rail runs all the way down. It's tied up against the floor. We got it butted up against where I cut it off up there. And you can see the floor isn't perfectly straight, because I know my tube is straight. So it'll be more of a bring the floor to the tube. So now I'm not going to weld it up in place for a while, because now we got to work on where I'm going to put all my suspension mounts. So this is the new leaf springs I've got for it. So these are not S10 or Astro springs. These are full-size Chevy springs. So these are 64 inches from here along the arc up to there, which is 10 inches longer than factory. So we've got some work to do on that. These are part number 22793. These would have come out of a 90K 1500. What other ones they came in, I don't know. It's just what this one did. Now I don't know how much of this pack I'm going to use. I know I'm going to use the main leaf. That's the only thing I know. So in order to make this a little easier to work with, I'm going to pull it apart. So it's just the main leaf, because it'll be the same shape as it is right now, and just a whole lot lighter to work with. There we go, got the leaves pulled off of it. Now we just got the main leaf. So now I'm going to go over to the van, and I'm going to start marking and measuring stuff, like finding the exact center of that wheel well, deciding how much I want to move the axle from there, and all sorts of crap. Alrighty, so I got my frame section back out of the van, which it's very handy that it does that right now. And I got some measurements marked down here. So the first thing I did was I found the center of the old wheel well, which is right there. That's the rear of the van. That's the front. And that's where I would have the axle at full compression so that it fits up right in there. Now the new wheel well, I want the center back here. And then what I did is, since these are 64-inch leaf springs, it's 32 inches from the center back. Easy enough, right? You know, roughly. So I went 32 from there, which got me to here. And then the front hanger, those of you who know Astros, you'll recognize this. You know, your stock ones are, I think, just this hole. This is just an extended one, where it's got the two mounts that go into the body. And then, so, you know, I could just, you know, put my holes there and there, call it good. However, in the interest of having a little more adjustability, so I can fine-tune that position of the rear axle, like I did with this hole, what I think I'm going to do is shift this either forward or rearward 1 inch. I'll have to see which fits better up in the van. And that way I can put a line of holes here and a line of holes here. Now I'm going to remake this so I won't have the holes, you know, that'd be a lot of holes in there. So I'll just get some new 1/4-inch plate, make a new one of these. And then that way, no matter where I put it, it'll mount on either these lines or these lines. So I think the front is pretty set as to where in relation it's going to go. And then the rear, so I took that same 32-inch measurement from the new center line back. So that would be the furthest the bolt of the spring would be at when the spring is completely flat. And then I've got this shackle, which I'll make pretty again. But this is 7.5 inches from here to here. So this line right here is at 7 inches. So I think that's the furthest forward I would put my mount at, because that would leave me an angle, you know, very, very shallow. It'd be almost flat when it's at full compression. So I think what I would do is move this way. You know, obviously I'm not worrying about my height down from the frame yet. I'm just worrying about my position. So then, the further I move back, the steeper this angle gets. You know, I got to be careful, because I don't want it to go like that when it's drooping, but, you know, I need to get a decent range of motion out of it. So, not 100% sure on the rear position yet, but that is what we are thinking. Also, took some quick measurements off here. In my estimate, when is the difference between droop and ride height would be about a 1/2 inch. This is marked at 3/4, so it'd move from here to there. So that's one of the benefits you get from a longer spring, is it doesn't move forward and back as much anymore. So I think that's what I'm going with tonight. I'm gonna set it back up in the van and then see which holes I want to use. So now here we go. Here's how that bracket is coming out. Obviously this is upside down, but so just some 1/4 inch plate all around, and that's how the shackle fits in there. I purposely made it an 1/8 inch wider so I can put a washer right in that gap right there. So that'll go there. This is, so I'll finish weld this plate on. You can see all those access holes worked out for right there, or this access hole. So yeah, turned out really nice. I accidentally had to make this twice because I'm using all used steel here. So the first stuff I bought for this plate turned out to be stainless. So I had to cut all that off and then redo it. So now we'll go from here. So now here we go. Here's that back on the back of the frame rail. And then here is where the front hanger sits. I got some plates all cleaned up, and I'll get them tacked in place and show you how that mounts on there. So now here's that bracket, how it looks all tacked up. So obviously this is upside down. This goes to the outside, right underneath the step there. And then, so this is a hole in case I need to pass cables through this area. So I've already got that ready. And now I will weld this up and add some more braces in a couple areas like here and right down there. And then we'll go from there. So now here it is, all finished up. So you can see I got it fully welded, some extra gussets added in there. And yeah, it came out really nice. So this surface right here is what goes up against the inside of that the footwell. So there'll be an additional plate that gets welded, spot welded to the van, and then this will weld to that. So that this back will actually be covered. But yeah, turned out real well. That's all good there. And then I finished up this side. Well, closer to finish. So I added these gussets on the side there. Got the top plated in. I'll have to do that another day when I feel like it. Unfortunately, you know, I knew this was going to happen, but so this tube did bend, and it's not to be, you know, it's not unexpected because I'm welding on this side and not on this side. So this side shrank, so it actually curves, you know, a little bit like that. So I'll have to flame straighten this. Well, that's at least what I know the process says, which is really cool. So basically what you do is you take a torch and you heat this side. And it's weird because you'll watch it and this side will expand because it gets hot, right? So it'll actually curve worse, the wrong way. But what it's doing is when it's hot, the steel will drift. So it's hot and under tension, or compression, sorry. It's hot and under compression, so it will slowly migrate and get thicker and move out of the area. So then when it cools, now the material is moved. When it cools, it'll actually pull back. So I'll heat this side, and it'll pull back, and I'll do it, you know, a few times, a little bit at a time, so that I can get this perfectly straight again. There you go. You can see it right there. So we got that little bit of a bump right there. So, but we got time for that another day. Now I'm going to put this back underneath the van, and we're going to cycle the suspension. So now we're under the van. We've got the main leaf bolted up in place. We've got the frame section tied against the floor where it should go. And I've got that at full compression, or, well, as flat as I can get it, really. Just check articulation of that shackle back there. And we haven't hit yet, which is perfect. So what this is doing is, so I've got 3 adjustment holes, remember, up there? So this is in the furthest forward. So that means I got the most angle on that shackle right now that I possibly can, because it's completely straight, or nearly. So this won't ever go further back than that. And I still have some clearance there before it touches. So this more than likely will be too soft of a ride to have it that far back. So we'll have to bump it up to the middle hole, but just so it gives me the option to be able to do it. So there we go. Now I am kind of done with that section of frame for now. I'm going to move on to things like getting this cross member out of the way, test fitting the gas tank up in here, you know, where your spare tire. This is where your winch would normally mount. So I'll cut all this out, and then I'll get that blazer tank mocked up in here and see how that fits. So yeah, it's going really well so far. So I got that way back cross member taken out, had all my spot welds done, and now underneath here, we've got the blazer gas tank. Now it's just roughly mocked up in there. This is nothing very, you know, final, because it will probably actually sit further to the front of the van as far as I can to get it out of the way of the rear of the van. And then there's the fuel filler. I'm guessing I will come with a 90 out of it and come and put a notch in here and then put my fuel filler right back here. So yeah, that's how that's going. And I think I'm going to end this one, get it edited, and then upload it, and then I'm going to start doing other things like doing some finish welding on the 2 rocker panels that I did. So yeah, there we go. Thanks for following along, everybody.